So for today, we'll be starting our presentation on Users and Grafitications 2.0 theory. I'm Tianzin and this is my group mate Tan Xin Yi. So we'll start off with the history, origin, and background of this theory. For the history, the Users and Gratification theory emerged in the early 1940s, initially focusing on the understanding of radio audiences. So from these early studies, we get to examine the diverse topics like newspaper strikes and children's interaction with comic books. This theory shifted focus to the psychological motivations behind media consumption. So in the early 1948, Harold Laswell developed a framework identifying four key uses of media, which are the entertainment, correlation, civilization, and cultural transmission. So over the time, UNG evolved to apply to new media forms like television, print, and more recently to the social media. So for the origin of this theory, it emerged in the 1940s where the UNG theory developed in response to researchers' interest in understanding why audiences engage with various media. From the focus shift we can see from the 1950s to the 1970s, researchers explored social and psychological factors influencing the media consumption related to the happiness, which the audience dynamics and operational evaluations became key areas of the study. So by categorization the viewers, UNG research group viewers based on satisfaction criteria to understand their media preferences. So what's the response to the criticism? So in the early 1980s and 1990s, the users and gratification methodologies improved, addressing critics and emphasizing comparative analysis. So for the motivation and media interaction, this theory shifted focus from anti-fulfillment to audience motivations. It shows how explore the media meets social and psychological needs. So continuing for the origin, there's a focus of the UNG approach where it examines the gratification that attracts audiences to media fulfilling their psychological and social needs. So in the early research methods, initial studies utilize experiments to explore the productivity and unintended consequences of the communication. Pain fund studies, which are originally associated with this theory, where these late 1920 studies faced criticism for being effects-orientated, diverging from this theory's focus on individual media use, where the key assumptions are two, active engagement and awareness of choices. So for the first active engagement, audiences become actively involved in media consumption through their favorite content, whereas for the awareness of choices, media consumers are increasingly conscious of the factors influencing their media choices. So what's the evaluation of this theory's approach? The UNG framework has evolved in response to public criticism and improved understanding of media effects, where this research shifted from experimental methods to functional analysis, emphasizing the audience role in media consumption. So for the evaluation and development of the theory, by addressing criticism, the users and gratification theory evolved by countering critics and refining methodologies, emphasizing audience engagement. For the complex motivations, where the focus shifted from basic satisfaction classifications to complex analysis of diverse motivations. Next will be the media audience dynamics, where it highlights the dynamic relation between media and the public, exploring how individuals seek fulfillment. Following up will be the understanding of interaction, where the framework is very essential for understanding audience interaction with media text. So by putting implication for the producers, the insights from UNG theory help producers target their audience more effectively by understanding motivations. So I'll pass the time to Xin-Yi.
And I'm going to say about the theories of low-level and variable audience activity. The first one is the factors influencing audience engagement in media. Engagement fluctuates across temporal stages, which are before, during, and after media exposure. And the ritualistic or regular usage patterns affect engagement levels. The next one is time relations theory. The audience preferences evolve over time. For an example, college students structure their days around TV series and discuss episodes before and after viewing. The next one is engagement variability. Audience motivation is driven by media dependency and how well the media meets their needs. And the expectancy theory, which highlights three beliefs affecting media intake. The first one descriptive, second one informative, and the third one is inferential. Then the next one is gratification sought versus gain, which is satisfaction varies with engagement. For example, talk radio less satisfying for those preferring face-to-face interactions. And the ritualistic versus instrumental media use. The ritualistic use which habitual and less intentional. The instrumental use is goal-oriented and needs focus. Rubin's findings highlighted these patterns and their impact on audience participation. And the last one is nuanced understanding of media effects. The researchers suggest more complex models to capture the diversity in media use. 1980s advancement in the emphasis on expectation value, social and personal factors in media dependency, and audience-media transactional relationships. And for the important notions, concepts, and assumptions or argument. So, to be an effective communicator, there are strategies that a person uses to make the conversation a success. For the critiques, split into two parts. The first one is limitations. Critics of UMG theory argue that it inadequately addresses media hegemony by undermining individual rights to choose and interpret media, fails to account for contextual influences on behavior, and oversimplifies audience motivations, despite acknowledging that media caters to unique audience needs. And for the critics, the critics of UMG theory argue that it oversimplifies audience behavior by not adequately addressing the complex ways media influences individuals, and fails to distinguish between passive and active audience roles, and is too broad to be considered a coherent theory in its own right. And for the potential future development of UNG theories lies in deepening its focus on how audiences actively use media to fulfill personal needs, enhance social interactions, and expand awareness, while enabling media providers to better engage and empower users in a more digitally connected world. For the conclusion, the uses and gratification theory has been widely studied and applied across various disciplines despite criticism. While it has limitations, it remains valuable in explaining real-life media-related situations. Additionally, it can guide prediction and management strategies, but must be used with consideration of unique environments and self-awareness. And that's the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening.